Welcome to the Fit Affiliate Podcast, where with honesty and transparency, we talk about all things fitness, coaching, and gym ownership, so that you can feel less crazy and frustrated and alone, while you also find more freedom and make more money.
And here we are again with the Fit Affiliate Podcast with Chuck and Tony. How are you, gentlemen?
We're fantastic.
That's good. That's good. So today I thought we would talk about what makes affiliates unique. I know that you're both very passionate about the affiliate model and affiliates in general. And if we had 100 affiliate owners and we asked them what makes them, what's special about them, they go community and programming and that
and
sort
we
of
give
stuff.
them the best hour of their day. And then we would say, well, cool, how do you measure that? And they would just kind of look at us.
Yeah. So, they would all give that same answer. So there's probably a lot of affiliate owners who really, if you ask them what makes them unique, what would their answer be?
I'd like the record to show one thing, and that is that we don't know these questions until about 2 minutes before this. So just so you all know that, but we'll answer them just the same.
As is the nature of Fit Affiliate, ready, fire, aim, and just send it are like core values. And so I don't know. The least scripted podcast of all time. So I think the way that I would approach it to consider it as a question is, what could they do to make them unique, and what do they actually do that makes them unique? And the beauty of the affiliate model is you can do literally anything that you want, but everybody ends up running as close to the same program as they generally see fit outside of a handful of outliers. And so something that I was going to make a little post about this last week, but the CrossFit affiliate model is fantastic for entrepreneurs, but it's terrible for people that just want to own a business. Entrepreneurs are creative problem solvers. And in a model where you can be anything, do anything, and handle anything any way that you want, that's incredible. But if you're looking for a thing that has a default for how to operate, you're going to have a bad time relative to what most people's expectation and desire is. And so they could do anything they want to make them unique. And they have a bunch of things that they try to do reasonably similar to everybody else, incongruent with them, and it just doesn't generally work out super well.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things to kind of piggyback what Chuck was saying is that, it's a lot like coaches and trainers. The words are thrown around a lot. And so no doubt about it, when your name is on the lease and your name is on the bank account, you own the business. But, understanding the difference between self-employed or sole proprietor versus business owner versus entrepreneur, I think is a key distinction in terms of what it really means to start off individually, because Chuck is 100% spot on. Right? The beauty of the affiliate model is in that it is free to be whatever you would like it to be, full stop, period. Yeah, for sure. You're going to obviously do some degree of CrossFit, I would assume, if you're going to be an affiliate. But that even in of itself is loosely defined by all intents and purposes. So, and I think that freedom is the thing that a lot of people don't want, right? And so there's a reason why a lot of people gravitate towards a franchise model in conventional business, right? Because it's a turnkey, proven cash flowing solution, right? Like owning a McDonald's is not a failing concept, right? Like I don't want one because I don't believe in the market, but straight up, if I have the money to open up that franchise, there's no thought there's no entrepreneurship that goes into that, right? There's no solving of any problems. I just look up page number 32 in the handbook, and then that's essentially what's solved for. And I think that there is a request in a lot of situations by the affiliate community for something exactly like that without understanding what it is that they're giving up in requesting that, right? And so, again, to piggyback off of Chuck, they didn't really stop to think about how much they could do and how creative they could be, because they get so tied up in what they're supposed to be that they forgot what they want to be, if that makes sense, right? And so it's kind of the central framework of all things for affiliate. What doesn't matter? Why does, right? And so from the day that you decided, I want to own an affiliate, there should be a reason that drives that, right? And that reason should be that my affiliate needs to exist because of X, Y, and Z. And that should be because those X, Y, and Z is not being served in the affiliate community, right? And so that's why mine needs to exist. And generally, I think that is what drives most affiliate owners into going into business. But as soon as they get past that, they get hyper fixated on the what's. What is my programming? What is my rates? What are my coaches going to do? What am I going to pay them? What am I going to call myself? What? And then they forget all the whys. And with that, they forget all their identity.
And so they're stuck like scrambling to try to find an application of uniqueness and individuality in the places that matter the least. So the easy example is programming. Everybody's like, oh man, our gym just does it so much better than everybody else. Well, do you? Because how many times have you won the games? Because it's literally an experiment to like figure out when these things objectively are like working well. Longer conversation than that, but like, are you really doing programming that's that different and that unique? Probably not. However, maybe you are. And so like the danger ends up being that the uniqueness that people cling to is the thing that is compromised when they do look for a more rigid set of guidelines to color within. So for the people that they don't really like the individuality and creativity as much as they once assumed that they might, because it leaves them with an enormous amount of responsibility and burden. And so they're like, I just want the things dictated for me. Cool, fair enough. What if it's the things that you want dictated for you are the things that you really care about, that you feel makes you unique and individual? So like programming. There's a ton of gyms that bias to tons of like strongman stuff and powerlifting. And if we dictate like less individuality in the model also means less individuality in your programming, congratulations, you can't program the way that you want to. Oh, then the thing that we thought made us like special and unique, like that came off the table, and like that really sucks. But I don't know. It's the balance of order and chaos lends itself to the affiliate model being much more in favor of those that are much more comfortable in chaos. And when we look at like things that make people unique and individual, like those are things that exist in the spectrum of chaos and creativity. And those are generally not the things that exist in order. And so with Tony's reference to like McDonald's, you know exactly what burger you're going to get 100% of the time. But it's sure not going to be the best burger that you've ever had. And there's sure not going to be anything special or unique about it. Yeah, I don't know that really answers anything, but it's a lot of rambling thoughts.
No, they're good thoughts, as always. Do you think that affiliate owners tend to, once we open an affiliate, we're all excited, that it's daunting when they're asked, and you've probably come across this in your chats with people, is like, what do you want to be? And they find that question just too big and unable to wrap their head around what it is they really want to be or could be, or
I'll be super short. Then I'll turn it over to Tony because I know like it's itching under his skin. It's because they went to a why, or they didn't stay with why. They're looking for the what. Like, what should I be? What should I do? Not even to the degree of who am I, but like why? Like, why do you want to do this at all? And it solves for the what.
I mean, I think creativity requires consistency, right? And so I think a lot of people look at creativity specifically as it's like, art, right? You look at a Warhol and you're like, what the fuck is that, right? It's just, but obviously it's respected for its creativity and in the art that it is. And so, but you have to understand that like books don't just come to exist, right? Like that person who wrote that book invested in a very, very specific and regimented routine, likely of like every day at this time, I do this until this is complete. And then I move on to the next thing. And so the reason why that's important is that when you get yourself into a position, which is like owning an affiliate, and you're dramatically unprepared, no doubt about it, because there is nothing to prepare you for it. Right. That's the beauty of it, though, right? Like from the day you fill out that application and you're granted your permission and then like all things are go, it's like a scramble to get the things that you need. Right. Because I assume most people would start with like affiliate licensure. Right. They start there and then they're like, OK, now I buy the equipment, maybe vice versa. But like the reality is that at that point you scramble. And from that day forward, very few things are consistent, right? Because everything is in response. You very much live in reactivity as opposed to proactivity. And what ends up happening is that the whole thing becomes threatened from that point forward. And so, as an affiliate owner, I know you've experienced this when you are in response mode, when you're in fight or flight, there is no creativity. So in this whole conversation, which is like us talking about how do you keep an affiliate creative, like 99.9% of them don't want to be creative right now. They're like, I just want this fucking problem solved, right? Like, just solve this problem for me and then I'll get back to creative. And I think that there's a space for that in a lot of questions that are very specific, but you have to understand that if you don't, it's hard to be like, affiliates are all unique, right? Because everybody's like, CrossFit is CrossFit is CrossFit. Like, what's the difference? You got Rogue versus something else, or like this or that. And like, that's all what? Those are all what's, right? And so if you try to measure the individuality of an affiliate, one versus the other, based on its what's, its programming, its equipment, its coaches, its prices, there's not much individuality there because everybody gets caught up in the what. But if you get into why those gyms exist and you get those owners to go back to why they put down their savings, why they ran into the fire, why they quit their job, why this was the only solution forward for them, then you really get back to what truly makes this individual and this affiliate unique. And like, having sat through hundreds of hours with affiliate owners, through these consultations and having this exact conversation with them, it takes a lot of work to get you guys back to why, right? Like, everybody, you just open your mouth and what's fall out, right? They're like, it's all the cliche things, best hour, whatever, and stuff like that. But like, when you get to the why, eventually it's like, usually it's some degree of CrossFit changed my life based on my unique individual experience. And I couldn't fathom a reality where I did not pay that forward in some degree of those words. And that's where the individuality comes from. And that's the thing that's threatened by standardizing it, because like Chuck kind of said, if we all have the same burger, you're going to get the same burger. And that might be a good thing for a lot of affiliates because, well, they're not really good at making burgers. So maybe getting some help making a basic burger would be a good thing. But like, there's a lot of affiliates out there making the best fucking burger you've ever had. Those burgers would be at risk. I like burgers.
It's always about the snacks.
Lunchtime.
Yeah. So when an affiliate owner is, in the midst of, the storm, and they're just trying to keep their head above water and they're paddling like crazy, and they think, what is being creative about that? Like, how do I create that space to be that creative, to figure out my true why and give themselves permission to do that, if that makes sense?
Probably don't make it a bigger mental exercise than it needs to be. And honestly, like, a lot of the first step is just like, stop doing stupid things, stop making your problems worse. And that seems like kind of counterintuitive because I think we associate like risks and daring with the creativity and reward of chaos. But I think we would all agree that there's a lot of bad decisions that most of us make repetitively, knowing that they're not good decisions, but we know how bad they are and we know how detrimental they are. And like, it's something that we're willing to accept as like a sacrifice, right? We're like, well, when I do this dumb thing, this dumb way, it stops my life from moving the direction that I actually want it to, but it doesn't work me backwards hard enough that it's really a problem that I feel is worth solving right now. If you can start figuring out better ways that create less detriment to fix the problems that you already have, that's a gentle guide into being able to be more creative in your business that has entirely upside benefit, no real risk or detriment. And for a lot of affiliate owners, it restores the missing belief and confidence that they have in the ability to like think and act independently and to be creative. And so you'd asked earlier, would we get caught in like the what am I doing with my life? Like, what do I do? Well, because you stop appreciating that you curate a business operation that saves people's lives and benefits their families generationally, what do? You coach classes. What do? You write payroll. What do? You write programming. And so you're like, well, what do? I own a gym. Well, shit. forgot about the why, but a lot of it is because like we get so caught in the what's that we don't have an ability to creative problem solve. And there's a lot of very low hanging fruit for affiliate owners to like flex that creativity muscle, find just a different way to do something. And then either it works out and they build confidence and that's awesome, or like it doesn't work out and they recognize that like, oh, inevitably like every day as a business owner is basically just failing forward. And so like you go out on a limb, you get creative, it either works out awesome and you're stoked because you remember that you can be creative and there's better ways to solve problems and we can do more with less and we can move further, faster, easier. Or you're like, well, shit, that wasn't it. But turns out the detriment wasn't that bad. And I figured out that taking a chance is actually not that hard. And I know one way that doesn't work. Cool. Try again. So yeah, as a bunch of words condensed short, find the problems that already exist and just find like slightly better ways to try to actually fucking solve them, like actually make forward progress. If you and your spouse or you and some of your coaches have bitched about the same things every week for 2 fucking years, either quit bitching about it or do something about it. That's rant over.
I don't think it's a rant. I think that there's a lot to unpack in that too. And like the solution to competition will always be individuality, right? Like, so if you find yourself in a competitive element, like competing in a sport of one, there's nobody to compete against, right? And so like there's a post that's coming out. I don't know which day it's scheduled for, but it's essentially about this. And so, you know, giving yourself the space to be free and to create that creativity is hard. For one, you know, in many situations, we tend to view creativity as whimsical, right? It's irresponsible or it's wanton, right? There's no, you know, that would be nice, but like, I got to be a realist. I got to get shit done. I got problems. The fucking gym is on fire, right? And so, you know, telling them to carve out the space to get back to their freedom, it's like asking them for woo-woo. You're like, what's next? You ask for my fucking horoscope, right? So like, they don't understand it. And the reason why they don't understand is that like, again, they're hyper fixated on the what. The post that's coming out is essentially about stop competing with the local gyms. Like they're not your competition. They can't be, right? Because until the bulk of the people are walking around are pedestrian and they're active and they're playing and they're having fun, and like there's not too much competition. You could put 1,000 gyms in an area and I still think you would have more than enough market share to go around. And in that is the solution to the problem that we're talking about with individuality. Many people do not have the freedom to think creatively because they're worried about what everybody else is doing. What am I supposed to be doing, right? We're about to go into the open, right? Which could easily be the most creative time as an affiliate owner, but it can't be because what is everybody else doing? What am I supposed to be doing? What are the workouts? What are the standards? What am I going to have to do on Friday nights, right? Like, instead of thinking creatively and understanding that like you have the ability to do it however you want to do it, the way you want to do it, and when you want to do it, you instantly give up all that freedom and that creativity to figure out what you're supposed to do, right? What's the gym in town doing? What's their plan? Like, what's this? And that in itself, in a nutshell, is where the whole thing stems from. Not the open, of course, but like that's that fixation on everything else because everything is on fire. You know, so you don't want to be creative. You're looking for the answer, right? Like if you don't study for the test, what do? The day of the test, you go looking for the answers. You try to steal the cheat. You try to steal the answer sheet. But like, and that's really what ends up happening because they're like, I'm unprepared. What's the answer? There's not one. And that's the hardest part in affiliate ownership is that they want it to be a convergent business model, but it's a divergent business model. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. There's better and there's worse, but like even the worst answers still solve the problem. You know, but we all think that there is one answer to every problem because that's how we're raised. That's how we get sent to school. And so you come out of school unprepared for the creativity and the flexibility that is entrepreneurship.
Yeah, definitely. So I know from my experience that, you know, when you're looking around at all your what's and the problems, and it can make you feel like you're achieving something by actually just dealing with those things, like I've done something. So I'm, you know, creating that rather than that creative space. And, you know, I do that.
Today. It's my checklist.
Yeah, it's like affiliate owners will feel that, well, I feel like I'm moving forward because I've got through all of these things today. How do they go about thinking about that differently? And I know we've talked about their whats and their whys, but just if someone was watching this today and they go, oh, yeah, I do that, how are they going to look at changing that? What could they change or think differently about that in their daily operation?
So with like their checklists or their busy work?
Their busy work. And changing that mindset that, hustle, grind, and, I've been very busy today. I worked, 38 hours today.
Use what they already know. Fucking track things. Literally at the beginning, for most affiliate owners, track anything. Like really actually track anything. And I know that seems like a gross simplification, but how many times have you guys in the gym seen that as soon as somebody starts logging their workouts, everything gets better in their workouts? As soon as somebody starts logging their nutrition, everything gets better in the nutrition, regardless of them making a deliberate change to it at all. It's just drawing awareness around it. And so I think step one is like, man, there is some of that stuff that might start as busy work, but end up being important. And there's some things that end up being important that end up being busy work. Like most people could get programming off their plate really fucking early on, but they choose not to. However, in the beginning, like it has to exist because you don't have the money to outsource it. You don't have anybody else involved. So like it is a necessary what to deliver the why, but just becomes like filler on the back end. And so does your programming change anything in your gym? Like, do you have a way to quantify that? Like your programming actually makes the business better? Do you feel like you make more money than the gyms around you? Do you feel like your people stay longer, like they reach more goals? Do you have something that you can quantify that this thing is actually a thing worth doing? And if you can't even come up with a way to make sure that like this thing that I'm focusing time and energy on actually makes an impact, you're like, I have no fucking clue how I could track anything that relates to that at all. For sure, just probably kill it. Yeah. So like that would be kind of step one is like, most people's we're all so good at bullshitting ourselves, and our bullshit filters for ourselves are like deliberately out of tune. And so trying to like validate like what is productive and what is busy work, like we're just going to find whatever we're looking for 10 times out of 10. So like what's another thing that you can pay attention to that this thing has to support?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would make the answer even easier than that and say that you should probably apply to be a Fit Affiliate client, right? Because you are so full of shit. We all are, right? We're all just giant walking skin bags of our own limiting beliefs and bullshit, right? Like, and that's not meant to be offensive. It's just the truth. And most of us are just completely unaware of it. And the beauty of becoming a client is that the only thing that we really truly do is question everything that you do, right? Not in a bad way, just simply, why do you do that, right? Like, Lisa, you're a client. Why do you do busy work? Why do you find yourself creating fires? Like, what's the windmills that you're trying to kill? What do you do that for?
That's to give me a feeling of control when other things are going on that I can't control.
Why is that important to
you? Because I need to feel like I'm still in charge of the ship and controlling the direction and doing something.
Why is that important to you?
Because that's how I define myself. Because as just the affiliate owner.
So the way that you put out fires is how you define yourself, or the fact that you do work defines you as an affiliate owner?
Yeah, the fact that I do work and I've got things to do and I've got lots to do and I'm very busy.
Well, that's a good thing. Better than bored, but why? What would being busy have anything to do or suggest about your affiliate ownership?
Not much. It doesn't reflect what the affiliate is and what a why is and why I'm there. That's for sure. It's just distractions.
Lisa's like, wait a minute. I did not come on here to get my coaching public, right? Like, and so is it fair to say that the reason that you do that is that you're grasping at some degree of control?
Yeah.
Right. Totally. So if that's the case, is there not metrics that are objective that we could better focus on that you could control, like Chuck just talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Great. So is it a problem? Or are you making it one? Right. And so obviously the point of that exercise is that like all it really is questions. It's not about us being like, do this, do that, do that. It's simply that like most of us are unaware of how blindly we move through our day until we look up 3 months from now, 6 months or 3 years from now. And you're like, I'm nowhere further than where I was. And that's not your fault. You're just one giant walking bundle of habits. And so if you don't question everything that you do, which is exhausting, no doubt about it. But if you don't question everything that you do, right, you'll find yourself driving the same way to the grocery store, right, just because you've driven that way. And then really there could have been a faster way. Or, you'll find yourself, we just do things the way that we do them because they've always done them. And then Chuck and I come along, we're like, well, great. Does it work? Well, I think so. Well, think and know isn't the same. What metric are you tracking to be, you know that it's working? And they're like, what do you mean, right? And so the big struggle in all things in life, and not just affiliate ownership, is the battle between subjective and objective, right? That the things that get measured get managed. And very rarely do we want to truly make something objective when we could keep it subjective, because man, do we love to feel some type of way about a bunch of different things, right? And so most of the affiliate owners, they don't know how to move the needle forward, right? Because they're like, I don't know what lever to pull, or they don't even have the levers in their vicinity. So they're just like, well, I'm still free to feel, right? And so I would choose to feel like I was successful today because I feel like I got some stuff done. Great. And then Chuck and I come along like, cool, what did you get done today? Stuff. Right? And then we just break the habit. So yeah, I mean, the answer is apply to be a fit affiliate client. If you get through, you get through. But back to what Chuck was saying, if you don't do that, start measuring everything. You get how it works in fitness. There's a reason why you don't get fit in a global gym until you come to CrossFit. We didn't change exercise science. We just measured it. Right. And not because we think it was better or anything else. It's just that people will die for points, and you will do the same thing as it applies to moving your business forward. Use what you know. Track your business like you track your fitness.
Cool. So that's and speaking from experience, through my process, that's absolutely right. Is having sometimes you can be overwhelmed with something, and then when you actually look at the data, you're like, oh, that's actually not quite as bad as I thought it was. The world's not ending.
What is the percentage of times that happens?
These days, a lot.
Be honest.
I'm going to say like 95%.
Yeah, usually. I mean, that's pretty standard. We're all that way. Right? I mean, I have 17 monsters under my bed right now. They're there. I know they're there, right? But if you ask me a bunch of questions, I'd be like, well, maybe they're not really there, but they could be.
Yeah,
probably not.
So here's the thing. Well, I mean, all right. So about that, everybody wants to politic it, but yeah, man, we're all crazy guilty.
Yep. And it's I guess too, when people, there's so many gurus out there that are telling you should, like I said before, hustle, grind, and you feel like as the affiliate owner, you've got to be, constantly doing something, or people will think you're lazy, or you don't have a, oh, you've got a good life, you run a business, you must be able to sit back with your hands on your head. And they kind of identify with that, needing to just be the martyr, I guess, as well.
I don't think anybody sets out to be a martyr. Obviously they just want it to be easier, right? The only uniquely human motivation is the avoidance of discomfort, right? So, in a lot of situations, the easiest way to avoid discomfort isn't necessarily to change the situation, it's to change the parameters of the situation, right? So being broke is only a problem if I care about having money, right? So gym owners love to be like, I'm not in this for the money. Well, is that the case, or you just don't have money, so you would like it to not be about money, right? Because there's very few things that go on in life that don't get a lot easier when you got $10 million in the bank account. There's for sure a lot of problems that come along with having $10 million in the bank account you couldn't even fathom. But I think that nobody really sets out to be a martyr. You just end up one.
Ooh, because we're back at the beginning of the conversation, because you initially start with a why. You want to change people's lives, through your gym as a vehicle. And then you get caught up in the what's, especially in the startup stage, where so much of the what's, because you're doing everything. You're doing the fucking cleaning, the programming, the marketing, the advertising, the consults, the selling. You're doing nutrition clients, you're doing programming, you're doing a fucking PT. You're wrapped up into every what. And so it becomes a piece of that identity. And so part of the struggle is if I'm not doing all of these things, then I'm not being the person who is that human. So that identity is tied to those tasks. And it's well, step back to the why. What did you want to do? You wanted to change people's lives through your gym as a vehicle, right? Well,
Yep.
would you change more lives with more staff that serviced more clients?
For sure.
And if they all had opportunity for like genuine, no bullshit career advancement and they could build full time workloads and make adult incomes, would that be a pretty cool thing?
That would be awesome.
Would that be using your gym as a vehicle to change people's lives?
Totally. 100%.
And so the way to actually deliver on the why the most is for the owner to be the least of the bottleneck in the business, because anything the owner is doing, probably poorly and fairly haphazardly and fairly scattered, it's something that somebody else could be doing, probably better for themselves in a way that would serve the clients better. And so I think that's a big thing that we need to step back and detach a lot of like the guilt and the shame and the baggage with like this bullshit false construct of identity where we get so tied to the martyrdom and the suffering and like the startup gym phase that we're like, if I am not that person, I'm not doing the thing the way the thing is supposed to be done. And then we're also into the conversation of like, that's what makes it so awesome is that there is no supposed to be done that way. Because the same affiliate model that, you know, keeps a bunch of people pegged at some bullshit $150 unlimited membership running like the same exact, you know, process model, programming, community events as a million other shitheads all over the world. It's also the same affiliate model that like allowed Greg and Lauren to be like, so, hey, we got the small private personal training studio that we run these small group privates and like mini classes out of. And oh yeah, let's change the whole world.
Yeah.
Because Greg wasn't attached to the identity of the suffering gym owner doing everything. Greg was attached to the why and the mission and the vision to actually take an objective solution to the world's most vexing problem and find a way to disseminate it across the entire planet. And the only way that the big whys can happen is if all the whats get resolved by like better what resolvers. And that's very rarely the owner. And so like we need to decouple that because that's what holds the entire industry back.
Well, yeah, and another part of that is like when you go back to the beginning, full circle, and we're back to that beginning, right? Like when the dream is real and you plucked on the savings and you run into the fire, it's an infallible truth, right? In that money for sure perpetuates the dream, right? More staff making more money for sure is a good thing. Right? Like all of those things, nobody's going to argue with, right? Like, you know, if I had more money, I would have more staff. And if I had more staff and they made more money, I could help more people. And if I could help more people, then the dream is real. And that's why I'm doing this, right? But the thing is, you don't know how to do it, right? So you want to change the rules, right? It's like we've all been in a situation where you're like, I'm going to do Fran today. 3, 2, 1, go. And then a minute in, you're like, you know, you're not going to PR. You have no chance at, you know, beating the time on the board or PRing, whatever it is. And so all of a sudden you're like, I'm doing this for quality today, right? And you kill the intensity. And the next thing you know, you're like, I'm doing strict pull-ups.
I'm doing heavy Fran.
And I'm going to do 135-pound thrusters for quality, right? Like, congratulations, you sold out on the workout, right? You backed out. Like, you changed the parameters because you knew you couldn't win. You didn't have the solution. You didn't have the ability to get the sub 3-minute Fran. So you changed the rules, right? And that's the thing about being a business owner is that you can always change the rules, right? And so in so many cases when they're like, well, yeah, for sure. If I ask you, would having more coaches solve your problem? Yeah, potentially, but then I'd have to solve. No, answer it. Would it solve the problem? Yes. If they made more money, would that mean that the gym is making more money? Well, yeah. And so if the gym made more money, then you could engage in more, justifiable or just cause contributions. Well, yeah, right. And so if those other things were happening and you had more clients, would you not be helping more people and making a bigger impact? Yeah, great. Why don't you do that? I don't know how to do that, right? And so the problem there becomes they choose the identity, right? They then switch and change the rules to be like, I don't know how to get more money. I don't know how to build more staff. I don't know how to create more revenue. I don't know how to get more clients. So I want it to be okay that I don't have a lot of clients and I have volunteer coaches and I don't make any money. And I want that to be okay. For the same reason, I want it to be okay that I switch to, I'm going to do this for quality today instead of intensity. And that's where the identity shift happens. But it's not okay. If you're here to help people and save people, you got to get out of the way. And by getting out of the way, I don't mean like retiring or quitting, although maybe that is the solution for you. But like, what I mean is figure out what you don't know and run face first into that instead of trying to change the rules. The only way to get to a 3-minute Fran time is to go faster, painful or not. Find your limitation to fix it.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen, I think that's a really good note to end on, unless you've got anything else you want to add on this. But another insightful chat, and thank you for your time today.
Cheers.
Yeah.